Welcome to the Diabetes Revolution podcast with Dr. Sarah Townley, the type 2 diabetes coach, clinical pharmacist, and mom of 7 angels. You don't have to struggle and fight with your blood sugars for the rest of your life. I'm here to teach you the skills you need to control and even reverse this disease. There is such a thing as getting off your meds and creating a future free from diabetes. And you can have it too. Let's get down to business. Hello, my friends. I am feeling that creative flow again. And you know what that means? It means I am feeling my voice opening up and wanting to bring through ideas and information that aligns with my purpose in the world. And what is that? For those of you who are new to me or my podcast, I am Dr. Sarah Townley, that renegade pharmacist turned coach and healer that coaches people through reversing type 2 diabetes for almost 7 years now. Hundreds of people have created miracles in their lives working directly with me, and thousands have been helped with my message all over the world. It is my privilege and my mission to empower everyone that comes into my orbit with practical, strategic information that heals the body from insulin resistance and eliminates dependence on more and more medications, which is sadly the main and often only tool that modern medicine offers to the millions of people suffering with this disease and so many other health conditions. It is my mission to inspire each one of you to hear and to see what is possible for your body when it is properly cared for so that it can heal itself. Every body has the natural and divinely designed ability to heal, and it all begins in the mind. A miracle is created first in the mind. I have a client right now who is healthy enough for the first time in her life that she's opening up to the possibility that she can bring a child into her family. This and many more miracles are possible when we create our health and our lives intentionally. I love my clients through overcoming the physical, mental, and emotional blocks and obstacles to the process of healing, and I'm incredibly blessed and grateful to be gifted this opportunity in life. You can find a wealth of information and free tools on my website, sarahtownley.com. I was visiting with some of my friends who have known me for almost 20 years a couple of Sundays ago, and our conversation turned toward online business. And I explained that most service-based online entrepreneurs share a ton of free content in order to serve and to build trust that can eventually lead to relationships with clients. And I shared that there is so much free content on my website and my podcast that people can actually heal their bodies from years of chronic disease without ever speaking to me at all. And then I shared about the last podcast I published where you all heard Donna's mind-blowing story of completely reversing her diabetes and literally getting her life back over the last year. And one of my friends raised her eyebrows at me and expressed her surprise at how I help people create these kinds of miracles in their lives. And she was shocked that I helped this dear woman without receiving any payment at all. It's just how the situation played out for her as she was unable to hire me for one-to-one coaching at that time. But just through our first conversation, my podcast, and a series of emails, and a great deal of persistence and faith, Donna was able to share her incredible success with the world. And my friend was kind of taken aback by my generosity, and I said, "No, you don't see it the way that I see it. It is my privilege to be able to serve Donna this way. To be given the opportunity to play a role in the creation of a miracle is a privilege. To be trusted and allowed into someone's private journey to witness and guide is such a gift. Like, I couldn't give my gift without others receiving it from me. and it gives me so much fulfillment and joy to be invited and to be a part of their story. And for those of you who heard her story all over the world and felt inspired to take action for your own future, it's the gift that keeps on giving, even unto generations. Isn't it the most beautiful purpose to have? So today I am bringing you a massive core and fundamental piece of information that allows us to properly care for our physical bodies. This topic is a big, hairy one. It has taken me a great deal of learning and experimenting to feel ready to share what I know about this topic. And this topic is sleep. It's one of the main areas I assess thoroughly and provide coaching for with my clients because it can be such a major driver of insulin resistance and chronic disease in general. It seems, basic and boring to focus on, but let's just put that into perspective for a moment. We can get caught up in looking for a secret solution or a little known hack that would help us heal or feel better, and there's no shortage of marketers with products out there to make us think there's a new and shiny thing to buy. We can get so distracted by these ideas and things that we fail to scrutinize the essentials. It's like buying a spoiler for our car to make it drive better without making sure we're covering proper maintenance, like oil changes and tire balancing or something. My husband takes care of our cars. So, what are those boring core essentials for our bodies? There's eating quality whole foods with plenty of nutrients. There's moving our bodies frequently throughout the day, or what's known as exercise. There's breathing clean air, drinking plenty of clean water, getting adequate quality restorative sleep, and cultivating a calm and regulated nervous system so we're not perpetually on survival mode, and eliminating waste effectively. And in my opinion, another core essential is going to be our spiritual health. These must be all firing efficiently and optimally for a body to thrive, to be without disease and inflammation, to feel vibrant and well. We can forget to address these in the first place, thinking they're too simple to have a major effect, and we can get them all dialed in, but over time, one or more of them can become out of alignment. So we must return to the basics periodically to ensure we're building a strong and solid foundation, or nothing we do will create the lasting additive benefit that we are seeking. So let's set the stage. I want to bring our attention to the pure magic that takes place in our bodies when we're just sleeping at night. When we sleep at night, we heal our tissues and our muscles. We balance our metabolism and appetite hormones. We strengthen our immune system and lower inflammation. We clear toxins and waste from the brain and the body. All of this happens because of a circadian rhythm symphony of hormones that are working to repair, restore, replete, and rebalance our systems so that we feel rested, energized, clear in our minds, and ready for a new day. When we do not get adequate rest, when we don't allow these processes to unfold as we sleep, we pay heavily. Insulin resistance rises within one night of curtailed sleep. That means muscles take up less glucose. The liver pumps out more sugar, and fasting blood sugar and post-meal spikes are higher. Cortisol, the main stress hormone, stays elevated, driving belly fat, increased appetite, and blood sugar swings. Leptin, another hormone, falls and ghrelin rises, meaning you're going to feel hungrier and less satisfied when you eat and crave high-calorie, high-carb foods. The immune system weakens, meaning you're more vulnerable to infection. Pro-inflammatory cytokines stay elevated, which drives low-grade inflammation, that underlies heart disease, diabetes, arthritis, depression. We become more emotionally reactive. Us moms know, don't we? Our learning and memory decline and our mood worsens. Sleep loss is a major driver of depression and anxiety disorders. This always struck me so deeply as a pharmacist because in primary care, I saw so many people prescribed an SSRI like Zoloft or Lexapro as a knee-jerk reaction to a positive mental health screen for depression, when no drug has ever come close to improving mood as well as improved sleep quality. But nobody was looking at that. One fact that stuck with me regarding the impact of sleep deprivation is that the most heart attacks in one day happens on the same day of the year. And you'll never guess what day it is. It's the day after the spring forward day of daylight savings time, which is the Monday after the first Sunday in March in the U.S. Just 1 hour of sleep loss and the associated disruption to the body's circadian rhythm causes enough stress on the cardiovascular system that we see up to a 24% increase in heart attacks on that day of the year every year. And to top it all off, losing sleep means you will see more oxidative stress and less DNA repair in the body, and all of that accelerates aging. So I think we can all emphatically agree that getting enough sleep is essential. It's non-negotiable. It's critical. So how do we improve our sleep quantity and quality if we are falling short here? Well, first I want to point out that we have technology that gives us a serious advantage if this is an area we want to work on. The ability to measure and track our sleep quantity and quality is readily available, whether it's through a generic Fitbit type device that runs you $30 on Amazon, or a fancy Aura ring or a Whoop strap that might cost over $300. These biosensor devices are able to report total sleep time and graphically present you with when you were sleeping and what kind of sleep you were in. Every morning, I open up my Fitbit app to see total sleep time, and I'm shooting for about 7 to 8 hours. Total awake time, my goal is less than 75 minutes. Total REM sleep, which is dream sleep and sleep that benefits mood and learning. Total deep sleep, which is where deep repair and metabolic reset occurs. I'm hoping to get over an hour each of deep and REM sleep. 1.5 hours each is doing very well for me. Most devices also assign an overall score for the night, which helps me gauge whether my night of sleep is average, poor, or good for me. Seeing scores over 80 are good for me. Below 70 is poor for me. Having this measurement tool creates awareness and data that helps me know how I'm doing and to discern if something I'm doing to improve my sleep is working. I have always been a solid sleeper until I had baby number 7, baby Hayes, 2.5 years ago. I used to sleep soundly and sleep 9 hours a night every night, unless somebody woke me up, which certainly happened a great deal over the last 16 years. But after baby Hayes, I began to struggle with waking up at night or early in the morning, unable to fall back asleep. I could only sleep about 7 hours a night since, and at times this was very disrupted. That sent me on my own personal journey into the world of sleep optimization. And so I have a lot of firsthand experience playing with different strategies to help my sleep quality improve, which I get to share with all of you now. That being said, I want to start off by recommending either a sleep tracking device or a sleep journal that will help you connect the dots between what helps and what harms your sleep. And then I want to give you some really practical and useful information and strategies that can really help you sleep better. I want to be comprehensive, so I'm going to be relatively thorough. Again, in the name of covering basics, we're going to include things like sleep hygiene so that those of you out there get every opportunity to build a strong foundation for great sleep. And for any listeners who want to skip that in search of more advanced techniques, I want to invite you into a beginner's mindset so that you can ensure you're not missing something simple but profound in your routine. Sometimes it's the simplest things that can have the greatest impact. I'm truly excited about everything I've thought of to share with you. Sleep has been such a pastime for me that I remember one of my angel babies made me a Mother's Day gift in first grade that was an illustrated book all about me. And one of the pages started with the prompt, "My mother's favorite thing to do is ... And my child wrote sleep and drew a picture of me sleeping in my bed. So let's get into the juicy goodness I have put together for you. First and foremost, let's talk about stop wrecking your sleep. That means looking at the things you could be doing that are destroying quality sleep. Before we rush into trying new things, let's stop doing things that undermine our goal. So number one of these things is to go to sleep when you feel sleepy. I know. This sounds too obvious, but many of us want to finish that last favorite TV show or get a few more things done before bedtime. Or for some of us, this is like the only quiet time we get to ourselves and we stay up too late because of that. Maybe this is the time you get to catch up with or cuddle up with your partner. There could be all manner of justifiable reasons that we bypass our body's signals that it wants rest. But it's important for you to know that when you do that, that second win you get, that's a surge of stress hormone to help you push through the fatigue. It gets you wired to stay awake, and it can take hours to wear off. So please start paying attention to those cues that it's time to turn in. Another biggie that I see in some of my clients is eating too close to bedtime, especially if you're spiking blood sugar, and even if you're not. When you eat late in the evening, you signal to the body that it's still daytime. This suppresses melatonin production and delays sleep onset. It also elevates your core body temperature because digestion generates heat and metabolism is stimulated. Our body temperature needs to fall in order to fall asleep and stay asleep. So if you spike your blood sugar, the rise and the subsequent fall disrupts sleep, causing awakenings and lighter sleep. If you fall too low, you can wreak all kinds of havoc because these severe fluctuations can cause cortisol release, which activates our fight or flight nervous system, arousing you from sleep. And of course, if you lay down with a full belly, you could provoke some indigestion or reflux that surely is not comfortable for deep sleep. I want to share with you something I have seen personally and with clients that showed up on my CGM and knocked my socks off. On occasions in the past where I've indulged in a heavily processed carby meal, even when it wasn't like right before bedtime, I will have super disrupted sleep. Looking back on my blood sugar overnight, I have seen a string of spikes where my blood sugar is surging up and then sharply crashing, followed by additional surges and falls. So it looks like 3 or 4 spikes in a row. And if it is a lot of carb, this can take hours to settle down. I hope you guys don't hear that rooster cockadoodle doing away outside my window. Okay, so the thing that really hit home for me was noticing that the time I actually fell asleep coincided with the cessation of these surges. Like one time, that didn't happen until 3 a.m. Once I saw the chaos on my CGM the next morning, it made so much sense to me why I couldn't fall asleep until my body could rest from all that digestion and blood sugar drama. I have seen this in clients as well. And making this connection for me really helped me say no thanks to big carby meals. It's just not worth losing a night of sleep to me. There's something else that we know, if done close to bedtime, can interfere with sleep, and that's exercise. So, especially vigorous exercise. Now, I'm open to the possibility that you can hit the gym and go home, take a shower, and pass out. If that's you, I'm not going to tell you that you have a problem. I used to be this person, but as I got older, I found that certain workouts would impact my sleep more than others. And in particular, with paying close attention, I was able to identify that very intense weightlifting with the lower body would affect my sleep for sometimes up to 2 nights after. So I started backing down the weight I used on those days. This illustrates that things can change as we change. So if you are still doing workouts close to bedtime and having restless sleep or delayed sleep onset, you might just try separating them to see. Now there's kids on the other side of this wall screaming and cackling. This is similar to my experience with caffeine. I used to be a person who could drink a 2-shot Americano and go right to sleep, no problem. But as I've gotten older, I've become more sensitive. So I've started drinking only decaf after noon. I really love my coffee, guys. So giving it up completely would be a serious quality of life issue for me. But decaf is just as yummy to me, so it's an easy solution. Are you curious about how caffeine interferes with sleep? I'm kind of a why person, so I completely get it. Caffeine blocks the signal to the brain that produces sleepiness. The brain creates something called sleep pressure over the day with the buildup of something called adenosine. And caffeine blocks adenosine receptors so that you feel less sleepy. And this can do a few things. It can delay falling asleep, decrease total sleep time, and specifically reduce deep sleep, the most restorative sleep. And as we age, the liver enzyme that breaks caffeine down, called CYP1A2, declines so that we metabolize caffeine slower. What used to take 4 to 6 hours to eliminate now could take 8+ hours in older adults. Combine that with the common experience of less sleep already in older adults, and you only compound the problem. So, a common strategy is simply to avoid caffeine altogether after 12 p.m. to give your body plenty of time to clear it out of your system. Another problematic consumable that could be wrecking your sleep, and this might be a very unpopular topic for some, is alcohol. It is a common observation that having a glass of wine or two in the evenings can help a person, relax and then naturally drift off to sleep. Because of this sedative quality of alcohol, people can find this somewhat habit forming, but unfortunately, alcohol really damages healthy sleep architecture. Those phases of cycling through REM, light, and deep sleep. It fragments sleep cycles, reducing REM sleep duration. That affects learning and memory, suppressing that rest and digest parasympathetic nervous system activity, which raises the heart rate and causes restlessness, dysregulating body temperature, contributing to night sweats and awakenings. And alcohol increases blood sugar fluctuations and dehydration. Because it has all these damaging effects on sleep, people will feel more fatigue, reduced cognitive performance, emotional volatility, and worsened insulin sensitivity the next day. Compounded over time, this significantly increases the risk of dementia and even Alzheimer's disease, which I don't know about you, but is a big deterrent for me. Because sleep isn't as restorative as we get older in general, it can be a logical coping strategy to nap in the daytime or evenings after dinner, just to get through the day without feeling exhausted. Unfortunately, this can backfire because it lets off that sleep pressure, adenosine buildup, that helps us fall asleep at bedtime. So if you feel like you can't get by without a nap, just keep it to a very brief power nap, like 10 to 15 minutes, and try to time it as early in the day as possible. What you don't want is to create a perpetuating cycle of naps, pushing back your bedtime, even leading to some hunger and snacking, and then shortening your sleep duration as well as worsening your sleep quality, leading to waking up groggy, feeling so tired that you need another nap and another snack to get through the day. Okay, so now that we've eliminated behaviors that could be the root cause of sleep deprivation, let's build by learning how to work with your body to promote sleepiness at bedtime, fewer awakenings, and deep, restful sleep. What we are doing here is understanding the nervous system and the chemical shifts in the brain that need to happen so that you can sleep properly. We want to sync up with our natural circadian rhythm or our internal clock and promote appropriate melatonin production from our pineal gland located deep in the brain. So melatonin calms the brain and counters cortisol, our main stress hormone. That allows us to become drowsy, and it is secreted in response to darkness. One of the biggest opportunities to improve sleep duration is to directly address the timing and the type of light the brain is getting through the eyes. This was a big deal for me. So we're going to talk a lot about this next. Also, we want to allow our cortisol levels to chill out at night to decrease arousal or awakeness. This means limiting noise and stimulation through certain activities, like watching the news or checking our work email. So here are a number of targeted strategies that will do both for us: calm our nervous system and promote melatonin release. At night, turn the lights down low for at least 1 to 2 hours before bedtime. Set your phone to night mode to reduce the blue light it emits. And mine's actually on a timer. It just automatically does that when the sun sets. Avoid screens altogether, ideally, and consider getting blue light blocking glasses. You want the real deal, 100% blue light blockers, which will have a dark amber tint to the lens. I know this might sound kind of hokey, right? Like wearing these funny glasses in the evening, but hear me out. This might just raise your eyebrows. Controlled studies have repeatedly found that evening exposure to bright or blue-enriched light versus dim light leads to higher post-meal glucose and lower insulin sensitivity in both healthy adults and those with prediabetes. This can be measured in just one evening of blue light exposure during meals when compared to dim light. The next study is going to rock your world. One 8-year study with 85,000 participants without diabetes at the start showed a 53 to 67% higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes in the highest night light exposure. That was about 50 lux during late night hours. Just to put that into perspective, direct sunlight emits anywhere from like 32,000 to 130,000 lux in the middle of the day, depending on position, atmospheric conditions. So 50 lux is about what you would experience in a dimly lit living room or bedroom with a lamp on. Knowing this, I definitely am going to put my funny blue light blocking glasses on every evening at least an hour before bed. So not only does artificial light, rich in blue light, coming from LED bulbs, phones, tablets, computers, and TVs, suppress melatonin release, mess up your circadian rhythm, and reduce your REM and deep sleep, It elevates insulin levels and peak glucose from evening meals and reduces your insulin sensitivity. While we're on the topic of light, I have to share one thing that truly was a game changer for me in measurably improving my sleep quality, and that is getting direct sunlight into my eyes soon after waking up in the morning. So over the summer, because school was out, I was free in the mornings to go outside and walk in my neighborhood for, 30 minutes to an hour most days of the week. And after a week of this, I began to see a noticeable change in the time spent in REM and deep sleep, which was reflected in my sleep scores. I'm talking going from something like 45 minutes to an hour and a half of each. And my awake time decreased from an hour and a half or 2 hours to about 75 minutes. It totally blew my mind. I also am excited to share another unexpected but astonishingly effective tool that has recently become part of my self-care routine that has drastically improved my sleep quality. And that is red light therapy. You guys know I'm such a nerd, right? I've been shopping and wish listing a red light therapy panel for at least a year, but I put it off because there's such a wide variety of products and I didn't necessarily want to spend $1,000, but Amazon Prime Day approached, so I took to ChatGPT to help me identify what I actually want to try. And I ended up getting a small infrared light unit for like $200 and started using it 3 times a week right around the 1st of December. So about 2 months ago. And I had stopped walking outside in the mornings because, kids, school. I'm like combing 3 different girls' hair. You can picture 7 kids. And so the red light therapy really helped me regain the benefits that I had lost when I stopped walking outside in the morning. Overall, I've just been blown away by how sensitive my sleep patterns are to light in general. Light in the morning, red light at night, blocking blue light at night. Why is light exposure so impactful for sleep? Well, your brain has a governing clock that sets your circadian rhythm. It's in the hypothalamus and it's called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. Who cares, right? Well, this clock is most sensitive to blue enriched light, which is abundant in morning sunlight. When morning sunlight hits your eyes, it sends a strong signal that it's daytime, and this sets your 24-hour clock, ensuring that melatonin secretion begins on time about 12 to 14 hours later. And it's very resilient to interference, meaning it's a durable reset for your clock that even counterbalances the modern light in the evenings. Studies show morning light exposure increases deep sleep and REM stability at night. The best time to get this is within 30 to 60 minutes of waking up. And if you wake up before sunrise, which, as we've been in the winter, it's certainly my new normal, you could use a 10,000 lux light box if you can't step outside. Now, consistency is important, so try to do this daily. If the sky is clear, you only need about 10 minutes of direct outdoor light into your eyeballs. If it's overcast, you might shoot for like 20 or even 30 minutes. You don't need to stare at the sun. You just need outdoor light without sunglasses on. Glass filters out much of the beneficial spectrum. And then sunset light is uniquely rich in red and near infrared wavelengths of light. That tells your brain it's time to wind down. This stimulates the production of melatonin release and prepares the brain for sleep. And this makes sense. We're meant to rise with the sun and go to sleep with darkness that comes after sunset. So funny, right? How intelligent nature is. Okay, so that's a lot of info around light. Let's also talk about temperature. The core body temperature of a human body naturally drops about 1 to 2 degrees Fahrenheit or a half to 1 degree centigrade in the evenings as part of circadian signaling. This drop helps trigger sleep onset and deeper slow wave sleep. Toward the morning, core temperature rises again, which nudges you awake. For your core to cool, heat must be released through the skin, especially your hands and your feet and your face. So if the room is too warm, your body struggles to shed heat. A cool ambient bedroom temperature around 65 degrees Fahrenheit will support this process. Deep sleep thrives in cooler conditions, and REM sleep is especially heat sensitive. I recently heard an expert on cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia on a podcast with Peter Attias say that she requires all her patients to get rid of their down comforters and use a thin cotton blanket instead. Wow. This condition might be particularly important to mind for women in perimenopause because those hormonal fluctuations can cause dysregulated body temperature, classically seen, with the hot flashes. So cooling the room and using lighter bedding and even sleeping on a cooling pad could be really helpful. You also want it super dark in your bedroom, which could mean being extreme, like taping the lights over your smoke detector and even using a sleep mask. For your nervous system to relax, there are some techniques that can help quiet the mind. Certainly avoid getting pissed off, right? Don't scroll Facebook, watch the news, check your work email, talk budget with your spouse before bed, please. Instead, keep a calming, soothing bedtime routine so you can downshift. We have all heard about, hot showers and baths and sauna or hot tub, right? But how about a shoulder rub? I have a cool little neck massager I can plug in, and I lock my kids out and listen to something I enjoy and turn that massager on in my easy chair. You could also do some deep breathing, some meditation. If your mind is busy, busy, busy trying to remind you of all the things that need to get done tomorrow, journal it. Write it down. It's kind of like a mind dump. Your brain will usually settle down and let it go if you write it down. You could also follow this with a quick gratitude journal or prayer to get your vibe into a good feeling. Who knows? You might have a good dream by planting that seed before bed. And if it suits you, you can add in a little aromatherapy or herbal tea. Just make it super cozy and comfy and turn those lights down low. A few other very noteworthy lifestyle modifications to improve sleep I still haven't mentioned. So let's keep going. One of the pieces of advice I've heard from sleep expert Dr. Matthew Walker stress as king is consistent wake time. This means having a set wake time, no matter the day of the week and no matter how late you were up the night before or how much you woke up in the night. It really helps to anchor the circadian rhythm and build that sleep pressure through the day. Regular exercise also helps build sleep pressure, which translates to faster sleep onset and deeper slow wave sleep. It also helps with core body temperature cooling if it's done earlier in the day, like the afternoon or the early evening. Exercise balances the stress hormones and improves sleep architecture or quality. All sorts of exercise, from cardio to resistance training to yoga, have demonstrated benefit in clinical research. So just do what you enjoy. And last, for this category of working with your body, I just want to mention that for ladies who are in the perimenopausal window, you may want to consider seeing a qualified provider that can test your sex hormones and help you consider bioidentical hormone replacement therapy if it's appropriate. One of the changes that we see in this stage of a woman's life is the loss of progesterone production. Progesterone is a calming, even sedating hormone that, when it declines, can promote sleep disturbances, anxiety, overwhelm. I don't want to focus on this for this podcast, but I do want to mention and give you a resource to investigate with if you think this is contributing to your sleep deprivation. I recommend going to worldlinkmedical.com and using the provider directory to find a qualified practitioner in your area who can help you address this. All right, the last category of discussion today is about things you can try to enhance your sleep quality beyond everything we've already covered. So these are going to be add-ons. Just to start, some of you may want to know what I think about sleep medication since I'm a pharmacist. This is a huge topic and would be its own podcast, but I will make mention of commonly prescribed medication for insomnia for those of you considering them or currently using them. Overall, no medications are ideal or possibly even safe for long-term use. They work best situationally or short-term because none of them address the root cause of insomnia. Shocking, right? Behavioral strategies such as those we are exploring in detail in this podcast outperform all meds for long-term sleep health. Prescription medications for insomnia often harmfully distort normal sleep structure or architecture, meaning they usually don't give you the quality of deep sleep and REM sleep that is normal and healthy. The ones that seem the safest and best at preserving normal sleep structure are low-dose doxepin and Rozarem. So Rozarem is a melatonin receptor activator, so it mimics melatonin. Doxepin is an old drug that used to be branded for anxiety and depression and is now used primarily for insomnia. Doxepin has similar qualities to antihistamines like Benadryl, which has sedation as a side effect. Another very commonly prescribed drug for insomnia is trazodone, which is an old drug that isn't habit-forming and can be quite sedating. It comes with several potential side effects, such as next-day grogginess, impaired alertness, weight gain, low blood pressure, memory, and concentration worsening, and people can develop tolerance over time, necessitating higher doses that act more like an antidepressant. However, this is a drug that can be used chronically to improve sleep continuity, which is minimal awakenings once you've fallen asleep, and is usually pretty well tolerated, and it has relatively minimal effect on sleep architecture, even possibly increasing deep sleep. The last commonly prescribed class of drugs I saved for last because it really should be last line and minimally reached for. These are the Z drugs, Zolpidem or Ambien, Zaloplan or Sonata, and Azopiclone or Lunesta. These help a lot with sleep onset, but quality of sleep is negatively impacted, such that sleep is often more like light sedation rather than fully restorative deep and REM sleep. So these are known to be habit forming, which means they lead to dependence, which means a user cannot sleep without them. They carry some abuse potential such that they're controlled substances in the United States. And they're associated with sleepwalking and activity, meaning a user can lose memory of being up and doing things in the middle of the night, even such things as eating or driving. So these are not recommended for nightly use, and long-term or heavy use of Z drugs is associated with an increased risk of dementia, kind of like alcohol. There's one other class of meds that some may use for insomnia called benzodiazepines. These are things like lorazepam or Ativan, alprazolam or Xanax, and clonazepam or Klonopin. And then there's always temazepam or Restoril. So these are highly habit-forming and are known to cause memory and cognitive impairment. So the only time it is possibly appropriate to use these is when all other options fail and for very brief periods. Okay, I think that's as detailed as I want to get regarding prescription drugs for now. Whew, brings me like flashbacks in those pharmacy days. And it reminds me that these really aren't the first place we want to investigate or experiment with to solve this or most health problems. Like they have their place and can be really useful when appropriate, but doing the foundational healing work cannot be replaced by these kinds of tools. They are meant to be temporary and supportive. So let's switch gears for a moment and touch on a topic within this category of add ons. This particular issue is relatively common in my clients and is super important to treat, and that is obstructive sleep apnea, or OSA, which is a condition where the airway repeatedly collapses or becomes blocked during sleep, causing breathing to stop for brief periods, which are called apneas, or become shallow. Each event can last seconds or even over a minute. This wakes the brain up briefly, often without full awareness, and disrupts that deep or that REM sleep. It drops the blood oxygen level and stresses the heart. It causes a stress response where surges of adrenaline and blood pressure during apneas increase risk for hypertension, arrhythmias, heart attacks, and stroke. And it worsens insulin resistance, blood sugar control, and weight gain. And poor oxygenation and fragmented sleep increases the risk of memory problems, depression, dementia. Treating OSA with weight loss, CPAP, and other tools restores normal breathing during sleep, allowing the body to enter that deep sleep and have those continuous sleep cycles. So this is critical for healing, for blood sugar regulation, for your cardiovascular health, and your brain function. I'm mentioning this in particular for those of you who avoid, you know who you are, using your CPAP machine or may need a CPAP but haven't talked to your doctor about it yet. So if you think you might have OSA but you're not sure, you can easily screen yourself using the Stop Bang questionnaire. Just Google Stop Bang. Answer those 8 questions and get your score to see what your risk is. That'll help you decide if you need to get evaluated by your doctor. Now, let's talk about add-ons or devices that can help you sleep better. I use all of these, okay? Just kidding. I use most of them. I use a sound machine to create white noise in my bedroom. We started using these when we had babies to drown out those little noises that wake me or the baby up. The continuous background noise they produce just helps the brain become, less sensitive to noises that might cause disrupted sleep, like the ice maker in your refrigerator or the sound of your spouse getting up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom. I also use a sleep mask from time to time. Like I remember I used this when the sunrise early in the morning during summer months made it really hard to sleep to my normal wake time, which is around like 6:30 to 7. So I just put it on as the sunlight was lighting my room around 5 a.m. and got that last 1 to 2 hours of sleep. It's also great if someone is still using a screen in your bedroom after lights out, and that's making it hard to fall asleep. I mentioned the blue light blocking glasses already, which I'm committing to using going forward. And one device I have gotten close to trying but never actually ordered was a bed cooling technology, which is called the Chili Pad. I've heard other influencers like Mindy Pelz praise this device heavily because it really helps regulate body temperature in a way that supports deep sleep. And it can be a game changer, especially for women who struggle with the hot flashes. Now, as I mentioned, I'm using my red light therapy 3 times a week and recently just turned it on in my bedroom as the only light on for the last 15 minutes before bedtime. Next, I would be remiss if I didn't give you some direction around over-the-counter supplements. These can be a useful add-on tool to improve both sleep quality and quantity. I played around with these quite a lot over the last few years myself and with my clients. So I'll share with you the ones I have found to be the most likely to offer benefit without next day grogginess. Before we dive into all the recommendations I have, I first want to give you some general guidelines on how to select a quality supplement. Supplements are not a well regulated industry, and the contents of a product can vary wildly in the dose and the ingredients from what is listed on the label. So, I've heard of stories where pharmaceuticals were found inside of supplements without being disclosed, only to be discovered after harm was done. For example, in 2024 to 2025, there was a rash of discoveries in sexual enhancement products marketed as all natural that actually contain prescription erectile dysfunction drugs like Viagra and Cialis. So that might sound not so bad, except that these drugs can cause dangerously low blood pressures when taken with certain other drugs. So, how can you be a wise shopper? So, I just want you to look for a few things. The first thing is a third party testing seal. So these are seals that verify independent, non-manufacturer based testing for ingredients, potency, purity, and absence of harmful contaminants such as heavy metals. The gold standard is USP verified, but there's also NSF certified, consumer lab approved, and informed sport. So there's 4 different ones that are third-party testing seals that you might find on any given supplement. The second thing you can look for is to request or look for a certificate of analysis, or COA, which is a lab report showing exact doses and ingredients and contaminants like heavy metals and microbes. Good brands make COAs easy to find on their website. And then the third thing you can look for is to check for GMP manufacturing. So this means it was manufactured in an FDA Good Manufacturing Practices facility, and that reduces contamination risk. So vetting the brand and the product matters, especially for melatonin. Studies show melatonin supplements can vary negative 83% to positive 478% of the labeled dose. That is scary. Speaking of melatonin, the first of the lot of sleep supplements that almost everyone has heard of is melatonin, which is our natural sleep hormone. So it's produced in accordance with our circadian rhythm and can be supplemented to try to mimic normal production. So if you're having trouble with falling asleep, regular melatonin taken 30 to 60 minutes before bedtime is appropriate. But if you have difficulty staying asleep, you're going to want an extended release formulation. It'll provide a more sustained level throughout the night. At higher doses, which is considered over 5 milligrams, or with the ER formulation, there is the potential for next day grogginess. So I would just start with a low dose, like 1 milligram. I hear often people tell me that melatonin just doesn't work for them. And it really makes me think that is because they haven't looked for root causes or built a strong foundation for quality sleep. Remember, no supplement is going to replace the importance of doing the basics well. It won't make up for destructive behaviors like snacking late at night in front of a screen for hours. And again, even with melatonin, I don't recommend using it as a sedative every night, but rather as a supportive option for difficult periods. The next supplement I want to put a spotlight on is magnesium. Not all magnesium is created equal, by the way. So I want to give you some very specific direction with this very important mineral for sleep. Magnesium actually supports multiple core mechanisms for sleep all at once, and most Americans are not getting enough in their diet. So it calms the nervous system through increasing the relaxing neurotransmitter activity called GABA. It helps shift your nervous system into rest and repair mode by helping to regulate the stress response, even decreasing anxiety and anxious thoughts. It helps the body drop its core temperature by dilating blood vessels. It helps relax muscles, which relieves tension and spasms and restlessness. And it helps with more stable, continuous sleep in studies. Not all magnesium is absorbed well through the GI tract, so it's important to look at the salt form on the label or in the ingredients table. You want to find either a magnesium glycinate or a magnesium L-threonate. Avoid oxide. I prefer a specific product, which I use myself, called Magnesium Breakthrough, which is made by a company called Bioptimizers. This product contains 7 forms of magnesium to cover a much wider range of the body's needs, such as immune and bone health, as well as the sleep. Whichever verified product you choose, you will want to take about 200 to 400 milligrams at bedtime, depending on how much you tolerate. The limiting side effect is usually loose stools because magnesium relaxes smooth muscle, which lines the intestine. Honestly, I recommend all my clients start a quality magnesium supplement, even if they report good sleep, because of its many valuable benefits. The next supplement that I want to suggest considering is ashwagandha. You're going to find this in just about any supplement for adrenal support to regulate the overproduction of cortisol. It is in the cortisol regulating supplements I recommend to my clients. And you may recall Donna reporting life-changing improvements with her sleep in the last podcast. If you have a problem with nighttime awakenings and inability to fall back asleep, it could be related to an inappropriate cortisol bump, especially if it's happening between 2 to 4 a.m. and not because of a low blood sugar. Ashwagandha is an adaptogen, meaning it helps the body balance its own hormones rather than overriding them. And clinical trials show improved sleep efficiency, which is the percentage of time in bed spent sleeping, as well as decreased time to falling asleep and better subjective sleep quality. It reduces anxiety and overthinking as well. It's taken at 300 to 600 milligrams per day in the evening, usually, and its effects build over 2 to 8 weeks. It does not sedate, doesn't distort sleep architecture or cause dependence. If you're a stressed out person, or if you feel wired but tired at night, or if you have nighttime awakenings with racing thoughts, this is a really good one to try. The last one I want to focus on is called glycine. This is actually an amino acid or protein building block that helps with both sleep onset and better subjective sleep quality. So interestingly, glycine is also known to improve blood sugar control and metabolic functioning. This one to me is just a no-brainer. It has virtually no risk when dosed appropriately. I buy it in a powder form and add it to my coffee several times a day because it actually tastes like sugar, which is a double win. It helps sleep by helping the body lower its core temperature, and it calms the brain because it's an inhibitory neurotransmitter. And it improves sleep architecture through multiple mechanisms without sedative effects. As a bonus, it improves insulin sensitivity and nighttime glucose stability, and is typically dosed at 3 grams 30 to 60 minutes before bedtime. Now, there are so many other supplements out there for sleep, and I've tried many of them, but these are the ones I've experienced benefits from myself or with my clients. There are other things like L-threonate, CBD, GABA. They're all potentially useful, but I just didn't see their benefits myself. And I just want to remind you, if you play around with these, it helps to do one at a time. So you are able to identify what is beneficial or possibly what isn't, because you can tie your observations to one change at a time. The last add-on I'll mention that I also use is a grounding or an earthing bedsheet. This one seems kind of hokey, okay? But there's quite a lot of compelling small study and anecdotal support demonstrating the many benefits of grounding. So, what is grounding? It is the practice of synchronizing through direct contact the Earth's magnetic field with your own. So, when we touch the ground or plants growing in the earth or the Earth's water sources, like the ocean, you exchange electrons, and the flow of energy has an anti-inflammatory benefit, and it can lower cortisol levels and thereby improve sleep. Grounding sheets and mats plug into a grounded electrical outlet in your home, and through conductive fibers will bring that current of electrons from the earth to you. I don't believe it's as powerful as placing your body in direct contact with the earth, but it sure is nice to have this option when the weather is just not going to allow you to stand barefoot on the ground for 15 or 30 minutes a day. And just from an evolutionary perspective, it makes total sense that touching the earth is natural for humans, considering we didn't always have shoes and beds and all the things. Most of the time that humans have lived on the earth in our natural habitat necessitated touching the earth for most of the day and night. So it's quite unnatural to rarely touch the ground. But in our modern lifestyle, it doesn't happen most days for most people. I actually hear my kids making jokes about kids needing to touch grass, which is a reference to a popular internet meme that basically means, like, you've been online too long. Go outside and reconnect with nature and the real world. Okay, we are almost done. The very final question I want to answer in this podcast is, what do I do if I wake up in the middle of the night and I can't fall back asleep? So let's just cover an early awakening reset protocol that you can try. First, if you find yourself awake or after going to the bathroom can't fall back asleep, try not to check your clock if that triggers mental math or alarm in any way. Instead, do some slow, extended exhales for 1 to 2 minutes. So this looks like cycles of 4-second inhales followed by 8-second exhales. This activates your vagus nerve, lowering your heart rate and calming the stress response. If you feel warm or flushed, kick one leg out of the covers. Peel back that top blanket, flip your pillow, anything that brings a wave of coolness, because that helps trigger melatonin and reduce alertness. Then I'm excited to give you a trick I've been using successfully to fall back asleep. So beneath your closed eyelids, move your eyes side to side slowly for 30 to 60 seconds. So this mimics REM sleep movement and helps quiet the emotional center of the brain, the amygdala. It pairs well with the slow breathing. If you do these three things, the slow breathing, the cooling the body, and getting and gentle eye movements, and you still can't fall back asleep after about 15 minutes, go ahead and get up out of the bed. You want to leave the bed so your brain doesn't associate the bed with frustration. So keep the lights off or super dim and choose a soothing, low stimulating activity such as meditation, prayer, journaling, reading. When you feel drowsy again, only then should you climb back in the bed. It's pretty normal as we get older to have trouble with waking up and falling back asleep. Hopefully, if you address the root cause and it's correctable, you'll have less and less disruption in your sleep. All right, my dear friends, I am hoping you made it through this without falling asleep. I sure love all of you, and I want to encourage you to strengthen your commitment to your health, your self-care, and creating the best, most fulfilled version of yourself. And remember that I'm here for you. You can reach out to share your story with me anytime through my website. And if you're ready to put your full attention on healing your body from diabetes right now in your life so that you can finally feel good and strong again, I would enjoy coaching you through that process. Send me an application right now because action creates, whereas overthinking stagnates. And you never know, it might be a whole lot of fun. All right, we'll see you on the next podcast. Okay, don't leave yet. You're going to want to hear about this. If you love my podcast, if I'm the only sane voice you've found on this subject, if I've already helped you, you need to check out my online course. It's a start-to-finish, step-by-step video course that teaches you all the tools you need to know to beat this disease. You can find it on my website, sarahtownley.com, along with lots of other free tools that will make taking care of your diabetes so much easier. So get over there right now. See you there.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.